Have you ever felt an inexplicable chill when talking to someone? Even though they were smiling at you the whole time? It wasn't anger, it wasn't aggression. It was something much harder to explain. Almost like your instincts knew a sign your mind couldn't see. What if the real danger in people isn't found in the loud and obvious behaviors, but in something so subtle most never notice it? Imagine those who are always too good, the leaders who never admit mistakes, or the friends who seem perfect but leave you strangely uneasy. Few people understand this hidden signal, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Because once you learn how to recognize it, you'll never see certain people the same way again. And that's where we begin. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who shout or explode in anger, but the ones who keep smiling. Jung called this the persona, the mask we all wear to survive in society. And here's the catch. The more flawless the mask looks, the greater the risk of you getting trapped in the illusion that you're dealing with someone safe. You've probably already crossed paths with this kind of presence. Maybe that colleague who's always polite, yet quietly spreads distortions about you. Or a spiritual leader preaching humility while using faith as a tool for control. Or even a partner who never says no, but later makes you pay the hidden bill for every favor. That gap between appearance and reality, that's where the danger hides. And when it strikes, the effect on you is brutal. Someone accuses you of things you never did, or puts words in your mouth, and suddenly your very identity feels hijacked. Anger, confusion, fear, all tangled together. Jung explained this as projection. They aren't reacting to who you are, but to a distorted image they've built of you. And trust me, that leaves scars you can't see. Think about how often you've found yourself in the same loop. Relationships that begin with charm and end in mistrust. Jobs that look promising but drain you dry. These cycles don't just wear you out. They corrode your confidence and make you doubt your own intuition. That doubt is the perfect setup for manipulation, an open door for emotional or even spiritual traps. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The danger isn't only out there. It's inside you too. You also wear masks. You've smiled when you wanted to scream, or pretended calm when you were breaking inside. That's human. But when the mask becomes the rule, the shadow you're hiding ends up running your life. That's when you stop leading yourself and start being led by the very forces you deny. And this is where the promise of this video comes alive. By the end, you'll know the exact sign that exposes the most dangerous type of person, even when they look like the most reliable of all. More than that, you'll learn how to turn this awareness into strength. Because the real key isn't just protecting yourself from others, but breaking free from the masks you wear without noticing. The revelation starts here, but the journey goes much deeper. You might not notice it, but everyone carries a rejected part inside them. A side that doesn't fit the image they want to show the world. Jung called this the shadow. The persona, on the other hand, is the social mask. What you put on to be accepted, admired, respected. The problem is, the farther your persona drifts from your shadow, the weaker your relationship becomes with yourself and with others. Think about that friend who always acts generous but deep down resents you if you don't give back. Or the partner who accuses you of being cold, when in reality they're the one terrified of being abandoned. These baseless accusations aren't just misunderstandings. They're projections, fragments of the shadow the person can't own. So they throw them onto you, like you're a mirror reflecting what they refuse to see. That's why sometimes you feel absurdly wronged. Like when someone calls you jealous, when all you were doing was minding your own business. Or when a coworker says you're just trying to show off, without realizing they're the one desperate for recognition. These moments leave you baffled because they don't seem logical. And they're not. It's the unconscious speaking louder than reason. Here's the part hardly anyone admits. Shadow projection doesn't just happen in others. It happens in you too. Yep, you've pointed out flaws in someone else without realizing they were echoes of something unresolved inside you. That's the uncomfortable part, but also the freeing one. Because once you recognize it, you stop being just a victim of the game and start becoming aware of it. And this is where the real question kicks in. If everybody carries a shadow, how do you tell the difference between someone just learning to handle it and someone who becomes dangerous precisely because they deny their own darkness? That's the key Jung gives us, and it's the mystery that's going to guide our journey from here on out. The more you understand these mechanisms, the sharper your inner radar becomes. And if you want to dive deeper into Jung and this whole psychological universe, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And hey, drop a comment with the country you're watching from and share topics you'd like to see in future videos. That way, you're helping build this community with us. And here's where the big revelation comes in. If everyone carries a shadow, the real danger isn't in those who recognize it. It's in those who deny it completely. Because the more someone insists on seeing themselves as totally good, pure, and virtuous, the more blind they become to their own impulses. Jung said this is the hallmark of the truly dangerous person, the lack of awareness of their own shadow. You can deal with someone explosive because at least the boundary is clear. But the one who wraps themselves in absolute goodness is unpredictable. They believe everything they do is morally right, even when they're manipulating, controlling, or hurting others. It's the coworker who prides themselves on being fair but twists situations to hold power. Or the partner who says, "I only want what's best for you," while slowly suffocating your freedom. It's the perfect mask, worn without realizing something darker is hiding behind it. This is the trickiest mechanism. What isn't made conscious comes back as fate. The envy they won't admit shows up as caring advice. The repressed anger hides under the label of necessary justice. The denied ambition disguises itself as a noble mission. On the outside, everything sounds beautiful. On the inside, it's manipulation, control, even cruelty dressed up as love. And the scariest part? People who act this way honestly believe they're on the right path. Maybe you've felt this firsthand. That friend who swore, "I'd never be jealous," but then started tearing down your achievements. Or that leader who preached humility but did everything possible to keep everyone under their authority. It wasn't open malice. It was goodness without awareness of its own shadow. And you, caught in the middle, felt the strangeness of battling something invisible. That's why Jung warned, the absence of an admitted shadow is the most dangerous sign of all. Not because the person sets out to do harm, but because they truly believe everything they do is for the greater good. And when someone thinks they're always right, there are no brakes on their excesses. After all, how do you question what they see as nothing but purity or virtue? This is the answer the title promised. The most dangerous person isn't the aggressive one, but the false good, the one lost in their own role of being flawless. And here's where you realize the way out isn't to run from the shadow but to integrate it. Because only those who face their own limits learn how to live with clarity. And that's exactly what we'll dig into next. If in the last point you saw that the real danger lies in those trapped in the illusion of being completely good, now it's time to spot how this shows up in real life. The first form is the perfect persona. This person always seems flawless, smiles at the right time, answers with absolute calm, never shows anger or doubt. But behind the curtain, there's no authenticity. What you're seeing isn't a real human being, it's a socially trained character. Maybe you've felt that unease before. The coworker who never slips up, who always has the polished line ready for any situation. At first, you admire it, but soon you notice something's off. Their eyes don't convey truth, just performance. That lack of spontaneity is dangerous, because when everything is rehearsed, any gesture can hide intentions you'll never see coming. Another pattern, even riskier, is archetypal possession. That's when a person stops being themselves and takes on an absolute role. The savior, the victim, the warrior. From that position, they believe everything they do is justified, because they're no longer acting as an individual but as a symbol. And symbols, when left unquestioned, can be used to excuse any excess. That's what happens with politicians who present themselves as redeemers of the nation, ready for any sacrifice except their own. or with religious leaders who see themselves as divine envoys, incapable of error. You also see it in spiritual gurus who preach infallibility while exploiting their followers. Behind the mask of the archetype, there's always an unacknowledged shadow demanding the stage in a twisted way. And it's not limited to public figures. You'll find this dynamic close to home too. The partner who plays the role of absolute protector while suffocating your freedom. The friend who's always the victim, never owning responsibility. Or that coach who sells total success while denying any trace of human fragility. All of these roles are variations of the same danger. The loss of awareness of one's shadow. When someone gets locked into a mask of perfection or a rigid archetype, life around them becomes unstable. You never know when the ice is going to crack because the person isn't reacting as a human being, but as a fixed idea. And living with an idea instead of a real person means living surrounded by invisible risks. This is where you start to understand why Jung saw these patterns as the root of silent danger. After seeing how the perfect persona and archetypal possession play out, an unavoidable question comes up. Why do some people always seem to fall into the trap of getting involved with people like this? The answer lies in the denied shadow. What you refuse to recognize in yourself comes back in distorted ways, either projected onto others or showing up in repetitive choices that only bring pain. It's like the unconscious is playing a silent game. You reject your own anger and end up attracting partners who express it violently. You deny your ambition and surround yourself with people who use power against you. That's the repetition cycle. The unresolved drama inside you finds a stage outside until you finally decide to face what you've been trying to hide. Carl Jung saw the solution with clarity. Integrate the shadow. That doesn't mean giving in to your darker impulses, but having the courage to look at them. To admit, yeah, I do feel envy, I do have selfishness, I do carry aggressive impulses. When you recognize that, you strip the shadow of its secret control over your life. That's the first real step toward maturity. Those who avoid this work keep repeating the same story. People jump from one abusive relationship to another, convinced this time it'll be different. Or they cycle through toxic friendships, never noticing they're seeking outside what they haven't yet accepted inside. It's tough to admit, but pain is often a signal that something within you is asking to be acknowledged. Maybe you've noticed this pattern in yourself. Always attracting controlling partners, jealous friends, or manipulative bosses. Feels like bad luck, but it's not. It's an unconscious reflection, a mirror of the unworked shadow. As long as you refuse to face those parts of yourself, you'll keep walking into external traps, convinced the blame lies only with others. The way out is the exact opposite. Stop denying. Integrating the shadow means reclaiming power over your own life. It's saying, this too is part of me, but now I choose how to use it. When that shift happens, you stop being easy prey for the false good and start attracting relationships that are more authentic. And in the next step, we'll explore how integration can become not just defense, but a creative source of strength. You've seen how denying the shadow makes life repeat the same dramas through abusive people and toxic relationships. But then the inevitable question shows up. Okay, I get how to spot the signs, but what do I actually do when I run into someone like this? That's where practice comes in. The real challenge isn't just recognizing. It's knowing how to respond consciously. The first step is strategic distance. People dominated by their own shadow drain energy without even realizing it. They manipulate, project blame, and wear masks to keep you stuck in their game. That's why the best defense isn't direct confrontation but setting firm boundaries. Sometimes all it takes is a clear no, shifting the subject, or simply refusing to engage in the drama they're trying to stir. You'll notice the red flags when you've crossed the line. Anytime you walk away from a conversation feeling confused, heavy, drained, or guilty for no real reason, that's a clear sign of toxicity. In those moments, don't waste time rationalizing or making excuses. It's time to pull back or even end the relationship, because constant exposure to someone living behind a mask chips away at your clarity and weakens your presence. On a psychological level, the key is awareness and self-defense. When someone projects their shadow onto you, remind yourself, this says more about them than it does about me. That one thought alone cuts half the poison. And when something they say triggers a wound in you, ask, is this really about me? Or am I just getting pulled into their game? That question puts the control of the story back in your hands. Think of that coworker who accuses you of selfishness out of nowhere. If you don't pause, you'll end up defending yourself, wasting energy proving you're not. But with awareness, you realize they're projecting their own struggle with boundaries. The weight lifts off your shoulders, and you refuse to step into the trap. It's a quiet kind of maturity, but it's powerful. With time, this practice becomes second nature. You learn to sense when someone's energy is trying to invade your space. And every firm no you give is like a brick in the wall of your integrity. That wall doesn't isolate you, it protects your clarity. And in the next step, you'll see that dealing with the shadow isn't just about defense. It can also become a path to creativity and inner strength. You don't need to waste energy trying to change dangerous people. The secret's simple. Create healthy distance, strengthen your awareness, and refuse to play the emotional game they try to impose. Every encounter with someone like this carries a lesson. The reaction they trigger in you is actually a mirror of what still needs to be seen and worked through. And once you understand that, you don't walk away drained, you walk away stronger and clearer. This video closes with a practical warning. Be wary of those who insist on always appearing good, moral, and flawless. The more perfect the mask, the higher the chance there's something hidden behind it. The real danger isn't in darkness itself, it's in refusing to acknowledge it. That line becomes a clear criterion, something simple you can apply in everyday life, and it shifts the way you see relationships. The reflection becomes even more powerful when you realize it's not enough to look outward. You've also got to look inward. The call is for self-analysis. Yes, notice the signs in others, but more importantly, recognize when you yourself slip into hiding your shadow behind a mask. Clarity begins the moment you dare to observe yourself without filters. By bringing these points together, you gain something rare: presence. You stop being easy prey for manipulators, false good ones, and rigid archetypes, because you're no longer afraid of facing your own contradictions. Respect grows out of your consistency, and people's desire to be around you comes from your authenticity. That's the power that shows up when you learn how to live with your shadow. The standard is right there in your hands. What makes someone trustworthy isn't the absence of flaws, but the willingness to own them. A real human being is made of both light and shadow, and those who admit that inspire true safety. But those who deny their darkness inevitably become dangerous, not because they're evil at the core, but because they've lost touch with their own truth. And now I invite you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us which country you're watching from. Share too if you've ever had to deal with people like this. And don't leave yet. On the final screen, there's another video waiting that'll take this reflection even deeper and guide you further along your journey of self-discovery.